And what is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Rubber Match. I'm your host, as always, Evan Kamiko. We have got a fun show for you today. I'll be in studio all day. We won't be going out to Bogle Park, even though if you want to watch some softball content, we're talking softball on the show. We're also, as always, talking baseball. PA announcer at Bob Walker Stadium, John Williams, is going to join me in a little bit to talk SEC baseball tournament and NCAA Super Regionals. But as always, we open the show the same way we always do. We've got our housekeeping stuff to go to. We are officially through 10 weeks of the SEC regular season. It is over. It is done with. It's time for postseason. So we've got some final counts, as we always do in our housekeeping for this show. We'll start with the Eloy Dinger count. This is just spectacular. Cajillo and SEC Player of the Year Vahiva Eloy combined for 31 dingers this season in regular season play. Vahiva had 18. Cajillo had 13. That is where we get our 31 number. If my math is wrong, come at me in the comments. I know a lot of you like to do that anyway, and that is cool. I respect it. I respect everything that you guys throw at me. So that is where we are right now when it comes to the Eloy Dinger count. As for the Gabe Gackle K count, we're in a good place. 65 strikeouts so far for the righty out of California from Aptos. He's got 65. Not a great outing, only 3 strikeouts last weekend when he faced off against Tennessee. But again, it's good to see Gabe Gackle continue to trend in the right direction as we get into postseason play. Again, John and I will break all this down in just a little bit about how insane this bullpen depth is and where Gackle falls into it, where Hunter Dietz, who we saw for the first time this past weekend. We actually saw him 2 weekends ago, but we saw him again this weekend and getting in a high leverage situation, I should say, more of this weekend. So that's where we stand for our K count. Let's take a look at our field view, our full screen. What do I think the lineup's going to be? Look, it's been pretty set. I think the lineup is set in stone right now. You've got Logan Maxwell, who's back. He'll be in right field. Kendall Diggs, we saw a little bit play late in games, defensive, being able to play on defense, maybe running a little bit of the bases every now and then. JTJ in center field. Charles Davalon in left field. I got a chance to speak to Chuck earlier this week. What a nice guy, and just learning about his background and just the crazy story of how he even came to playing baseball, being able to having to drive 17, 18, 20 hours from Canada to Florida to at least have a chance to maybe play. So that's a really fun conversation. Bits of that will be on our show next week, our baseball PTN postseason special. So excited to show you that. Infield, it's pretty much set in stone. We'll see, maybe Rocco Pepe will play a little bit of first base, but really Reese Robinette is there. Cam Kozel, Vahiva, Lloyd, Brent Iredale rounded out. Ryder Helfrich, who for me has continued to get better. I will keep talking about Ryder Helfrich on the show and just how impressive he's been as he continues to take steps forward and be that catcher we thought he would be this season, which has been really fun. Zach Root, your Friday starter, third game one, whatever you want to call it, even though I'm not sure if he'll pitch game one of the SEC tournament. John and I will talk about that as well. And Cajillo Eloy, your DH. 5 of these guys, all SEC guys: Davalon, Kozel, Root, Eloy, and Eloy. So 5 Arkansas Razorbacks, all SEC. Really, every single one of them are hitting 300 or better, so you can make a case for all of that. And this is right now where we stand with our field view. So before we toss out to that John interview, a couple more housekeeping things that I want to talk about. Let's talk about softball really quickly before I toss out to John and we talk about more. What a weekend it was at Bogle Park last week. I'm just going to give my overall thoughts right now, and then we'll talk about SEC bracket in just a second for baseball. But I want to jump to softball. It's my show. I can do what I want. Yeah, there we go. So just what a weekend for softball. How fun is it? Coach Deifel has done an incredible job with his team, starting 1-5. You've heard me talk about it over and over and over again on this show. Just the turnaround that they've been able to have, and to be able to say we are 2 wins away from Oklahoma City, a place this team has never been. It's just awesome. It is so much fun. So again, we talk softball. We talk Bri Ellis, the SEC Player of the Year, the Softball America Player of the Year in the nation. Just so much fun to watch. We talk about her coming up, but I want to show you guys really quickly before I toss that to my interview with John that what this bracket looks like. So we take a look at the bracket right now in the SEC. Here's the teams that are left. You have Tennessee and Texas in that game 1. Game 10 or game 9. Game 10, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, the 12-4. Oklahoma making a little bit of a run. They had a really close game yesterday. Ole Miss is going to play Arkansas. John and I will break that game down. And then again, you had that game against LSU and Texas A&M. That game is going to be played today. So that's really exciting. A lot of fun baseball. This is what the bracket looks like right now as we stand. Arkansas going to play Ole Miss. We'll get into all of that with John. So without further ado, here's John Williams on the other side of the break. Enjoy. Welcome back into the show. Excited to have friend of the program back on to talk SEC baseball tournament, as well as some Bree Ellis and some softball. That's John Williams, the PA announcer at Bud Walton Arena. You hear him everywhere if you go to any Razorback games. John, as always, thanks for joining the show.
Love being with you, man.
Absolutely. We have a good time. Let's start with baseball and SEC tournament. But first, let's kind of wrap the season and put a bow on it all. You were there in person at the Tennessee series. I'm curious. I didn't end up getting to make it out because we were covering softball regionals. Curious for you, what was that final week of the regular season like, especially dropping game one and being able to rebound and win games 2 and 3 to secure that final SEC series?
Well, it was an interesting season because it's broken into basically, you got your before anything happens as far as the SEC goes, and you have 10 weekends of regular season, 5 on the road, 5 at home. They started out gangbusters, number 1, and then they lost all those series in a row, bounced back against Texas, and then they lost going into the series with Tennessee. And of course, there's a lot of emotion when Tony Vitello comes back to Fayetteville. But the Razorbacks they've had their number with Tennessee when it comes especially to game 3s, rubber matches with them, and they did it again. I know there was a lot of heartburn with Razorback fans after that first game, like here we go, it's not going to happen. But you got to have faith in that team, the depth of the pitching, and then the offense this year has really rallied when they've needed it. So a big win, 2 out of 3, getting the Razorbacks, I think, locked in my humble opinion. I think the opinion of most national writers as a top 8 national seed.
Yeah, it'll be really surprising, I think, if they're not a top 8 national seed. But to your point about Tennessee, they've had Tennessee's number here in Fayetteville since 1996, which is absolutely absurd. They haven't lost a weekend series to them since 2005 in general. So to your point, for some reason, they just have Tennessee's number in the regular season. But now we flip it. I actually want to, before we go to postseason, I want to ask you about pitching, because I know last time we had you on the show, we talked pitching for maybe 15 of the 18 minutes. So really quickly about the pitching staff, what's your concern heading into Hoover about the staff? Because it seems like right now, Zach Root can maybe give you 4 at worst to 8 innings at best. Are you concerned about the depth right now? Again, the pitching staff is incredible. Christian Fouch stepped up big. Parker Coyle is back, which is really big. Hunter Dietz, we got to see a little bit of in a high-pressure situation. So are you concerned with at least the starting rotation right now, maybe behind Zach Root, or maybe Zach Root included in that?
I'm not at all. And I think, there's a reason why Matt Hobbs was the assistant of the year last year, is the way that he and Coach Van Horn handle a pitching staff, the depth on that team. That's a great word that you use, the depth. It actually, I don't think Razorback fans knew how deep it was. I mean, they're throwing Dietz in there in the last couple of weeks, who hasn't really pitched much at all. And we got to see him hit 98. It's just a matter of time before he starts getting his sea legs. I'm not worried at all about Zach Root, first team all SEC. I think he didn't have a great outing every outing, and I know that Tennessee roughed him up a little bit, but I feel good about him. The interesting thing is going to be how they maybe reverse engineer that the starting rotation given the SEC tournament. I don't know that a lot of the people that watch KNWA who aren't casuals know just how the SEC tournament used to be before it was this year, where now it's not a double elimination anymore. It's another, as Coach Van Horn and Coach Hobbs have said, it's another weekend series because they just play Friday, Saturday, Sunday because they earned it being a top 4 seed. Now you actually go to the SEC tournament going, we can win this thing. Whereas before, you're playing 5, 6 games. If you get in that loser's bracket, it's just the worst. You don't get anything out of it as far as seeding goes. And you're like, why do we even want to play this tournament? Now it's kind of great. Now you really could lock in a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed if you're Arkansas, if you win the SEC tournament. To get back to your question about the pitching, I'm not worried about it at all. It'll be interesting to see who they throw Saturday and Sunday. I think they kind of play it by ear based on who they have to have go in after Zach Root on game 1.
Yeah, I think I would be really interested to see really that game 3 if they make it to the championship game. Is it going to be Gage Wood in game 3, or could we see a bullpen game 3 championship like we kind of saw last weekend and 2 weeks ago with Jimenez? Then you throw out Dylan Carter for a while and kind of see who can give you a lot of innings. But before we talk about the SEC tournament, because I love the breakdown of kind of the differences between last year and this year, we got to talk about the SEC Player of the Year in Vahiva Aloy. I guess to you, we get to see, and we kind of have it unfair because here in Fayetteville, you have the 2 best players in the Southeastern Conference in baseball and softball, and Bree Ellis and Vahiva Aloy. I don't think fans realize how lucky they are. We'll talk a lot about Bree Ellis in a little bit. But with Vahiva Aloy, just what's impressed you the most this season? Because to me, it's just been everything.
It has been everything, and you're absolutely right. It's rare to have, in my humble opinion, and I think what may be the opinion, the consensus is to have the best baseball and softball player in America on your campus. And I believe that's what we have here with Arkansas. Vahiva Aloy, the thing that impressed me the most, to answer your question, is what I don't think a lot of people would say. I get to see him every day. He was a good defensive shortstop last year. I think after Jalen Battles, we had been spoiled by an elite defensive shortstop. And then Vahiva was good last year, but this year you could argue if they have gold gloves in college baseball, Vahiva Aloy is getting one. He was a vacuum cleaner. He made not just the ordinary plays, he made the extraordinary plays look average. I mean, he was incredible in the field with his arm, with his glove, turning two with Cam Kojal. Defensively, I thought he was almost as good as he was offensively, and offensively he was a terror. You couldn't get him out, and it got to the point midway through the year. I think opposing pitchers and coaches realized we got to throw this guy as much breaking stuff as possible. We don't throw a fastball to either Vahiva or Vahiva Aloy, and I think his adjustment to the breaking balls that a lot of pitchers started throwing his way midway through the SEC season, and how he and Kuhio both adjusted to that is going to be key to the success of the Razorback offense. But it's incredible to watch Vahiva. What a great kid and a great player for Arkansas.
Yeah, because we know number 9 can hit the fastball. There's no question. So can 25. Those two Bash Brothers, they get their name for a certain reason. But it's been, like you said, that adjustment to the off speed where, early in the season, I'm looking at, Jacob Morris or Courtney Mims and just saying, just throw him a curveball in the dirt 0-2. He's going to swing. He's going to swing and miss. And now you can't do that because he takes those pitches. He's patient at the plate, and just the defense is so fun to watch. There's some of these plays that he's making, backhand, throwing it across the diamond like he's Derek Jeter. I'm like, man, I used to watch that in New York for fun. Like, the fact that you're getting this here in Arkansas is awesome. And so I do want to talk something else because I think this is underrated about Ryder Helfrich. That, again, I've been saying this on the podcast week after week after week. Not only is Ryder Helfrich hitting .316 right now, but what he does for the pitching staff is, he'll make a couple of mistakes behind the plate every now and then. Every catcher does. It's college baseball. But what he's been to stabilize that catcher position, where last year he was kind of in that battle with Parker Rowland and, oh my God, who's the first base coach that I'm blanking on that they brought in now? I'll get his name in just a minute. It'll have to come to my head. But he was in this weird 4-person battle, and this year it's him and Zane Becker. It is Ryder Helfrich is the number one, and I think that's really big and speaks about what Ryder's been able to do and how fun he is. I think he's got a great personality, and you saw that 46-degree launch angle home run. That was crazy.
Let me tell you, I had to put up a stat where I had to explain to people what the normal trajectory of the flight pattern of a sand wedge is, and it was 20 degrees higher than that. And that's the highest home run I have ever seen at Baum-Walker Stadium in 11 years of being their PA guy. I have never seen. The outfielder lost it. He's like, I don't know where it is. And it didn't land for 2 more seconds. Ryder Helfrich, and it bears also mentioning, Ryder Helfrich, Justin Thomas Jr., both of them have raised their average as the SEC season has gone along. That is crazy. And you're right. Ryder Helfrich was a good hitter, a good catcher last year. He's become a very good hitter and an even better backstop this year. The growth, as we said, obviously with Vahiva and the identification of the breaking pitches, Ryder Helfrich, Justin Thomas Jr., these are hitters that have all elevated their hitting as the SEC season has gone on. So kudos to Nate Thompson there as well. But I think Ryder Helfrich has also moved up the order. He was hitting 8th a few times. Now he's hitting as high as 5th. And I think he's a real catalyst for the Razorbacks. You get down in that bottom part of the order, normally you're like, well, we'll see what happens. They got weapons down there. Justin Thomas Jr. has been hitting really well. Cam Kojal has been hitting really, really well. Obviously, Ryder Helfrich's been doing great. It's an embarrassment of riches right now for Arkansas. You don't feel like there's an easy out in that lineup.
To your entire point, JTJ hitting .308, Cam Kojal .335, Ryder .316. And then you even have, I'd say, Nolan Sousa's been out for a while, but Iredale, he's still hitting .300. It seems like he's been on this slump for the couple of weeks and hasn't really had his game that we're used to seeing, that we saw early on in the season. But he's still hitting, I think every single one of these Arkansas hitters are hitting .300. And again, it starts with Charles Davalon at the top, getting on base, hitting .353, only, .005 behind Vahiva Aloy. So again, like you said, an embarrassment of riches for this Arkansas offense.
I think Brent Iredale, I'm glad you brought him up because he really had a mid-season swale. He really started to not hit balls very well. He's striking out a lot. He was He also defensively, it even affected him. He wasn't playing great there. I think that Tennessee series was the Brent Iredale we saw in the beginning of this season. He was hitting the ball over 100 miles an hour. He was hitting with power. He was hitting to the opposite field. He made an unbelievable defensive play where he went full speed into a brick wall, made the catch, bounced up. Those are the kind of plays that really set the tone, not just for a series, but for a team looking to go into the postseason. And Brent Iredale really showing a lot of leadership, both on the field, and I think he's really begun to see the ball a lot better, and has been hitting it a lot harder the last couple of weeks.
And to play like he made in I believe it was game 1 or game 2, like you mentioned, where he dove and hit the wall, like that could change your entire perception of the way that you see yourself as a baseball player. It takes one small player, one massive play in that case, to change kind of your thought process, especially at the plate, and especially to build confidence, because it feels like that's what the man from down under has been lacking a little bit when he gets to the plate, is that confidence to be able to step up and say, I'm Brent Iredale. I know who I am at the plate. I hit things the other way. I see them. I let them go. I love his approach at the plate. And he got back to that in the series. And again, it's an embarrassment of riches. I feel like every time we talk about no matter anything on this Arkansas team, whether it's the offense, the defense, or the pitching, of just saying, hey man, they're so loaded. They're going to be a top 4 seed, and now they've got a chance to punch that ticket and maybe even win the SEC tournament this weekend. So let's touch on this before we head over to softball. SEC tournament in Hoover. It's different this year, single elimination. We went through the bracket earlier in the show. But I'm curious for you, what kind of advantage does this format for the SEC tournament have for Arkansas, where one, you don't have to play Texas until the finals, or Vanderbilt, they're the 1 and the 4. You might have to play LSU. That would be a really fun rematch. But first, you get the winner. You get Ole Miss first.
I think teams are also looking at the standpoint of they don't want to play Arkansas either. They're trying to avoid the Razorbacks in their bracket. And I love and I'm telling you, if you could just get Dave Van Horn and that coaching staff, they have to have done a 180. Everyone knows it was not a point of emphasis to win the SEC tournament before the season, but now it's not a double elimination. You know, the maximum you're going to play is 3 games, just like any other weekend. And I think that Arkansas playing Ole Miss, which is what they're going to do, I think that is a great draw for them. I think they can win that game, obviously. And then, like you said, I think they play LSU, depending on how LSU does in their game. Any game's losable now that we're in the final 8. And I think that Arkansas likes their draw. I don't think Arkansas is afraid of anybody. I know they're certainly not afraid of Texas. And even though they lost to LSU, that was in Baton Rouge, and you never know how it's going to go on the road. But as I like to point out, after the LSU series, they're done playing road games. Everything from this on the rest of the way is either a home game or a neutral site game. And I wouldn't want to play Arkansas in a home game or a neutral site game. And so we'll see how they do with Ole Miss. I would love to see a rematch with LSU. I think Arkansas would like to as well.
And quite frankly, that LSU series, like, they were 6 outs away from a win. Like, people forget that. Even I had a hard time forgetting that when they got blown out on the Saturday, where if you take a second, you take a step back and you're like, wait, this team was a couple outs, one bad the first bad Aiden Jimenez outing that he had all season. They were that away from a series win in Baton Rouge. Like, there's no way that you lose faith in this team, even though again, you see that 13-3 game. Yeah, okay, makes sense. I get it. You get freaked out, but again,
that was their first time they'd been 10-run all year.
Yeah,
and they had not lost any kind of game by a blowout. The run differential, if you look at it in the SEC, Arkansas is like 60 runs ahead of the next team. I think that's why a lot of people are putting them as a possible number 1 or 2 overall national seed, is because they're not looking at the records per se. They're looking at the run differential, and Arkansas is way ahead of Texas, LSU, Vandy, everybody.
Yeah, Hogs and Ole Miss. That game is tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We'll talk about that a little bit later as I wrap the show, but let's move on. We got to talk about the Bri Ellis show. We got to talk some softball while I got you on. Just how fun has it been? Like, last week was an amazing atmosphere at Bogle Park. 3,000, weather delays aside. Bri Ellis didn't even carry the team, and they still won the Fayetteville Regional. Curious for you from afar, what's it been like to watch Bri and to just see the growth of this softball team getting back to a super for the first time since 2022?
I'm not fortunate enough to be the voice of Bogle Park. That's my friend Jim Ragsdale. But I do follow them regularly, and whenever they're playing and the baseball team's playing, I'll always give updates. I watch all the the clips you guys have at KNWA and everything like that. You guys have done great work with her. I gotta be honest, it is a once in a generation talent with Bree Ellis. I don't know how many of your viewers are familiar with John Boy. Look him up on
Mm-hmm.
Twitter. He did an entire breakdown
Yeah.
of just how insane the Georgia business model was of trying to pitch to Bree Ellis, and then getting into the extra innings where they had no opportunity to not pitch to her. One strike, grand slam, history. Now she's on Sports Center. It's exciting to have somebody like Bree Ellis on this campus who is now becoming the face of that softball program as they potentially go to Oklahoma City in the Women's College World Series. I'm so excited for them to they can beat Ole Miss in the Super Regional here at Bogle Park. And it'd be really cool to see them get to Oklahoma City and maybe get revenge on Oklahoma for what happened in that SEC tournament. But it's just incredible. And Bree Ellis is such a great person and a great player, and what a great ambassador for that program.
There's a lot of revenge that it feels like with Arkansas baseball and Arkansas softball. Softball, their first SEC series was a series loss at Ole Miss, so them coming to town, it feels like they want to get back on the right trip. And to your point, like Oklahoma, that was the team that swept them right after Ole Miss took the series. And then what happens in the SEC semifinal. So there's a lot of revenge coming up, and I'm curious for you, what are you, I guess, most looking forward to this weekend, whether it's baseball or softball wise?
I'm interested to see how Coach Van Horn and Coach Hobbs manage their pitching staff. We have now mentioned, I feel like 9 pitchers' names in today's, and Aiden Jimenez. You could start. You could start obviously Gage Wood. You could start Beidel Shees. You could start heck, the way Will McIntyre threw the last 3 or 4 innings of that Tennessee game were eye-opening. He threw perfect innings, and nobody has more experience than Will does. And so really Gabe Gackle, there's so many options that they have coming out of that bullpen. Righty, lefty, Parker Coyle's healthy now. So I think they've got a lot of tools in that toolbox that they can use. And I'm also interested to see softball wise, how Ole Miss approaches Bree Ellis. We'll see if they take the Georgia tack where they go, nope, you're not going to see anything you can reach. And to see how the other Razorback, which by the way, that team's great without Bree Ellis, and see how they do against Ole Miss. I just love that Arkansas is playing Ole Miss in both of them. I think that's poetic.
Yeah, what a weekend it is for Arkansas fans. The last thing we'll leave you on this, John, I want to talk about Will McIntyre. Before we go, you brought him up. He's been with the Razorback team for 6+ years, it feels like, even a bit more. And to see him go out the way he did with those 3.2 innings of, really clean baseball, what does that just mean, not only for him, but also for the Razorback community who's watched this kid grow up from a freshman to where he is now leading this team? And could be a big part. We've seen, late innings Will McIntyre. Now you get to see him one last time. Maybe he comes on at the end of the year and is absolutely lights out like he was back in 2022.
It's the pride of Bryant, baby. Central Arkansas represent. Will McIntyre has been a Razorback a long, long time. And I think that he has had a lot of special moments on that mound for the Razorbacks. And I think that not only the way he pitched, but the way he comported himself on that mound, he was fiery in a way that we have not seen Will McIntyre. He's always been passionate and always such a fierce competitor. But he had some sauce for Tennessee, and I liked it. I got to be honest. I think the coaching staff liked it, the ferocity, and I think that it was a great example. We may see Will McIntyre earlier than we would have guessed before that Tennessee series. We may see him in a high leverage situation in a game where they really need to get some outs.
And I believe he said "Woo Pig Sooie" as he walked off the mound. Definitely nothing else. So that's going to do it. Big thanks to John for coming on. That's
exactly what he said, Evan.
There was no curse words when Will McIntyre walked off the mound. It was just "Woo Pig Sooie." John, thanks so much for coming on. We'll have more Rubber Match on the other side of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Appreciate it.
As always, a big thanks to friend of the program, John Williams, for coming to join me here on the Rubber Match. What an exciting weekend it is for Arkansas baseball and softball fans. Softball hosting the Super Regional. If you could get out to Bogle Park, I highly recommend you do. I'll be there all weekend. I cannot wait for another awesome weekend of softball there at Bogle Park. And if you could get to Hoover, if you're going to Hoover, leave a comment below. How do you think Arkansas baseball will fare in the NCAA tournament? Actually, the SEC tournament, because that's where we are. NCAA, you can leave a comment too. What do you guys want to know? What do you guys want me to talk about next week as we have, hopefully we're talking about Oklahoma City and an NCAA Women's College World Series for Courtney Deifel and her team, but also we'll be talking plenty of regionals. The Fayetteville Regional will be happening. I'd be extremely shocked if it doesn't. Arkansas, like John mentioned, is in a very prime position to basically win out and host out, I should say, to the end of the regular season. So let me know what you want me to talk about here on the Rubber Match next week. Any comments, questions, concerns about the show, I love hearing them. If you have a guest you want me to bring on the next couple of weeks, you should do that. Let me know what you want in the comments. Hopefully we're running this show till the end of June. That's ideal. We'll see what happens. Of course, can't control the team. Can only sit here, watch, and talk about it. But for the Rubber Match and for John Williams, I'm Evan Kamico. That's another week of our show. We'll see you back here next week.